Hey guys, tonight we're drifting back to the highlands of 14th century Ethiopia, where time doesn't tick, it thumps. You stand at the edge of an ancient village just as the sun exhales its last golden breath behind jagged acacia trees. The hills glow violet. You're not watching a clock. You're waiting for a sound. Because here, time travels on goatskin, carried through the air by deep, resonant drumbeats. The first echo rolls across the hills like thunder, with manners. Low, measured. One long thump, followed by two short replies. The village stirs. Lanterns flicker to life. A dog howls in rhythm. You feel it in your chest, like someone tapping a secret message on your ribcage. Now, a reality check. If you had to live by 14th century Ethiopian rhythms, you'd probably miss lunch every day. Forget what hour it is by goat o'clock, and offend someone important by clapping on the wrong beat. These people had no wristwatches, no hourglasses, and certainly no phone alarms. Yet they organized entire communities, from farming to feasting, by nothing more than echo and instinct. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it there? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into the heart of Aksum, once the kingdom's glittering capital, though now it's just a sleepy village clinging to memory and tradition. You follow a worn dirt path past stone houses and whispering eucalyptus trees. There's a flicker of light ahead. A fire crackles in the courtyard. A few villagers gather, cross-legged, sipping spiced teje from clay mugs. No one speaks. They're listening. Another drumbeat sounds. This isn't music. It's not for dancing. It's the time bell, the village's living clock. The man playing it, bare-chested, with wiry arms and a gray beard like twisted rope, strikes the goatskin surface with a carved wooden stick. Then he listens, not just for the sound, but for the bounce back off the hills. That's how you know if the timing's right. It's all about the rhythm, the echo, the feeling of the air. You find a rock to sit on and watch in silence. Every night, this ritual repeats itself. The villagers call it Kebero Zegnan, the drum of the hour. And this hour is special. The sun's gone. The hyenas haven't come yet. The stars blink awake. This hour is for remembering. A nearby boy leans in, whispering that the rhythm changes depending on the season. During the rains, the beats stretch longer. Dry season, shorter. sharper. He makes a quick drumming motion with his fingers, as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. It isn't. You're still trying to figure out why your stomach thinks it's lunchtime. Historians still argue whether this system came from an even earlier practice, possibly passed down from the Aksumite Empire or adopted from Nubian travelers who brought tales of sonic calendars and river rhythms. Some say it was a religious innovation. Others think it started with livestock herders needing a way to time watering cycles without the sun overhead. No one agrees, but the beats still carry. You close your eyes. The drum sounds again. You try to count along. 1, 2, thump. But the rhythm's not metronomic. It breathes. It waits. Then it surprises you. Like a storyteller with perfect comedic timing, a woman nearby chuckles. "You're counting like a European," she says, without malice. Here, you feel the hour in your chest. You smile, embarrassed, but secretly relieved. You're not supposed to know. You're supposed to feel somewhere far off. Another drum replies. You wake with a start, not from alarm, but from the hollow sound of a morning drum echoing across the fields. It's a different tone now, higher pitched, sharper. It bounces off the mountain ridge like a yawn that got stuck midair. Chickens clatter in the distance. A rooster gives up after one crow. The village is stretching awake. The first light of dawn washes over Aksum in dusty gold, and already the timekeeper is busy. He's not just some guy with good rhythm. He's a respected figure, known as the Zemena, or time messenger. He carries the weight of precision on his shoulders and in his calves because he walks a lot. His goatskin drum is stretched so taut it rings like a bell when struck. The sticks? Handmade. He oils them every week with crushed baobab seeds. This morning, the Zemena isn't alone. A visiting priest from the hilltop monastery has joined him. Together, they create a duet of time, temporal and spiritual. The Zemena beats out the first hour of daylight, while the priest chants a call to prayer. You'd think they'd clash, but no. It's oddly soothing, like hearing rain and wind chimes at the same time. You follow the faint sound of chanting to the monastery. It clings to the hillside like a stubborn goat, walls weathered by wind and incense. Inside, barefoot monks move in slow, deliberate steps, their robes whispering against stone. Each one knows the rhythm, not just the rhythm of prayer, but of time itself. The day is measured by when to fetch water, when to grind grain, when to pause and contemplate life's mystery, or the fact that you still haven't had coffee. Ah, yes, Ethiopian coffee. You're invited into a small room where beans are roasting on a flat iron pan. The woman tending the fire hums softly, syncing her motions to the beat of the distant drum. She pours the first round, abul, with the kind of reverence most people reserve for weddings. The air smells like earth and charcoal and caffeine dreams. Here's the thing. There are no clocks on the wall, no sand timers. Yet everyone knows what time it is. The drum told them. The rhythm said it was time for prayer, time for coffee, time to stop, sip, and maybe gossip, just a little. Historians still argue whether these time drums were originally tied to religious practice, or if they developed independently as a village coordination tool. Some think it's a blend. Monks may have adapted shepherd signals into divine ritual, sanctifying what was once just practical. You sip your coffee and feel the warmth in your bones. Across the valley, another beat rolls out. Different pitch. That's not just another village. It's another hour. Each community has its own tonal variation, like acoustic dialects. The drumbeat from the east is nasal and fast. The one from the west? Lazy and deep, like it hit the snooze button. By now, the sun is up. The mist is melting. The goats are awake and arguing with each other in that persistent goat way. And the people? They've started moving with purpose, raking, carrying, braiding, feeding, weaving, all to an invisible rhythm only they seem to hear. You try to count again. Still doesn't work. But this time, you don't mind, because you're starting to feel it in your chest, too. You follow the trail behind the Zemena, winding past low stone fences and early morning chatter, until it leads you to a structure that looks like a chicken coop. But it isn't. This is the timekeeper's hut. It smells of cedar smoke, sun-dried hide, and just a hint of rain-soaked earth. Inside, it's dim, cozy, and absolutely filled with drums. Not one or two. 12, by your count. Some large as ox carts, others small enough to balance on a knee. Each one is slightly different. One has tiny cowrie shells stitched into its edge. Another bears a sunburst pattern in red ochre. Most are made from hollowed acacia or fig tree trunks, sealed with stretched goatskin or antelope hide. There's one made from something you hope is just cow stomach. It is. Probably. The Zemena doesn't talk much. Instead, he gestures, inviting you to sit cross-legged on a worn straw mat. He picks up a medium-sized drum, nothing fancy, and starts tapping out a slow, repeating rhythm. You think it's just a warm-up, until he points out the door with his chin. Outside, you hear footsteps shifting. Someone's fetching water. Another opens a pen gate. A woman starts grinding barley. All in sync. This isn't just a soundtrack, it's a scheduler. Each drum has a name. You try to repeat one, Yechereka Kebero, and immediately butcher it. The Zemena laughs, shakes his head, and taps his chest twice. Feel, he says. Historians still argue whether this level of instrumental timekeeping existed outside Ethiopia. Some claim variants existed among the Yoruba in West Africa or in certain Berber tribes. But few traditions seem as structured or as sonically rich as what you're witnessing here. Then he shows you his prized possession. A pair of carved sticks wrapped with goat sinew, weighted with river stones at the ends. He strikes the largest drum once, and the whole hut shivers. You actually feel a breeze that wasn't there a second ago. No joke. Either this drum is magic, or the hut has ventilation issues. But it's not about volume. It's about carry. These hills are natural amplifiers. One beat here can echo 3 valleys over if timed just right. And timing is everything. The Zemena teaches you a simple morning sequence. 4 beats, 1 pause, 2 replies. You mimic him badly. The goat outside seems defended. Then something lovely happens. A girl, maybe 10 years old, appears in the doorway. She's holding her own little drum, shaped like a pot. The Zemena nods. She taps out the same sequence, perfectly. Then adds a flourish at the end that makes even the goat stop chewing. The Zemena raises an eyebrow, then winks. She grins and runs off. Turns out, the next generation of timekeepers is already training. You sit in the hut a little longer, surrounded by the gentle must of hide, wood, and memory. It's not just a drum room. It's a time machine. You exhale slowly. You've stopped wondering what time it is. You already know. It's almost noon now, and the sky above Aksum is baking the hills like flatbread. You shade your eyes and glance east toward the monastery, just in time to hear a faint new rhythm ripple across the valley. It's faster than the morning beats, more insistent. Your ears perk up like a shepherd's dog. Everyone around you seems to know what it means. It's the sacred midday hour. This is when the Deptera, the church scholars, begin their prayer rituals with a coordinated pattern of drum beats and chant. You make your way uphill, feet crunching through dry grass toward the whitewashed chapel. Along the path, incense hangs in the air like an invisible shawl, soft and smoky. A line of barefoot boys walks single file, each carrying a lit candle, a book, or nothing at all. except an earnest expression. The courtyard is quiet. Too quiet. Then, suddenly, a rhythm erupts from inside. A syncopated pattern that sounds like rain tapping on the roof of your childhood home. It's not loud, but it's commanding. The echo clings to the stone walls, wraps around your ankles. You step inside, and it's like entering a heartbeat. The head priest nods toward you, as if to say, "Yes, you can sit." But hush, in a corner sits a special time drum, a kebero covered in white cloth, reserved only for ritual hours. It's played not with sticks, but with fingers. Light taps, gentle presses, even brushes of the hand. You wonder how it can be so subtle and yet so precise. Every movement in the room seems dictated by this beat. Monks rise in time. A teenage deacon lights a taper just as a new verse begins. The air is thick with timing and cinnamon. You don't know why it smells like cinnamon, but you're not complaining. Now, here's the bit historians debate. Was this musical timekeeping truly meant to mark hours for the community? Or was it entirely symbolic, an offering to the heavens rather than a clock for mortals? Some believe it was both. Others argue it was incidental, that people just got good at telling time because the rituals were so regular. Meanwhile, your stomach starts growling, and the priest chuckles quietly without looking at you. "Drum says it's lunchtime," he whispers. Turns out the sacred and the secular aren't always separate. As you leave the chapel, the heat presses down like a wool blanket. But there's another beat, this one faint, rolling down from the fields behind the village. It's the agricultural hour marker, a midday drum used by farmers to regulate field rotations, watering turns, and even snack breaks. You follow the sound and find two young men seated in a field, slicing roasted barley and dried fish. They've set the drum down like a picnic basket, its goatskin glistening in the sun. One strikes it absent-mindedly as they chat, as if saying, "Still noon." Don't panic. The beats here are more practical than poetic. You learn that field workers assign different rhythms to different jobs. One pattern means gather the tools, another means rotate rows. One unfortunate pattern means somebody's cow got out again. And then there's the lunch thump, a triple tap with a pause, repeated until someone shows up with bread. You try not to look too hopeful. A woman arrives with a steaming basket of injera and lentils. She hands you a piece without asking. You feel weird accepting it, but also deeply relieved. The drum thumps once more, a pause, then quiet. Lunch hour is over. You wipe your hands on your tunic. It's definitely a tunic now. The past has fully claimed you, and stretch out on a smooth patch of hillside grass. Somewhere nearby, the zemena lets out a single beat. It's low, quick, and barely louder than a yawn. That's not a full time signal. It's more like a nudge. Welcome to the early afternoon rhythm. This is the slowest part of the day. The goats doze in the shade. The people speak in murmurs. And the drum? It whispers. Now, here's where things get delightfully nerdy. Ethiopian drum time wasn't just a mechanical schedule. It was poetic. The beat patterns had names, some literal, some metaphorical. There was one known as the weaving pulse, used when women spun cotton thread. Another called the fish call, used along rivers to signal when traps should be checked. And yes, there was even a beat nicknamed husband's remorse. Historians think it referred to a time for marital mediation, but no one's certain. Probably for the best. You stroll back toward the village center, where several women sit weaving baskets. They're tapping their feet along to a faint rhythm. Someone's beating on a pot in the background. You ask if it's still part of the zemena's schedule. One woman laughs. That's just Marin. She drums when she's bored. Turns out, the line between official time and spontaneous rhythm is blurry here. People improvise around the clock like jazz musicians. There's a timekeeping spine, but the muscles are always dancing. You start tapping your fingers on your knee, trying to imitate the lunch rhythm from earlier. A kid nearby looks over and smirks. That's the wrong beat for this hour. Great. You've time traveled and still managed to get roasted by a 12-year-old. But even in this lull, the structure remains. Tasks unfold predictably. The goat herders check their flocks. The boys refill the water jugs. The girl who outdrummed you earlier is now teaching her little brother how to count with sticks and claps. 4 taps means tea break. 5 means sweep the floor. Historians still argue whether these beat codes were formally taught or simply absorbed through osmosis. Some believe children learned them the way we learn traffic lights, just by growing up around them. Others insist there must have been a structured method, a proto-curriculum of rhythm and duty. Regardless, it worked. And it works still. A curious note. There's no written record of these daily beats in any centralized script. Some monks annotated them in margin notes beside psalms, but mostly oral tradition. If the drumkeeper died unexpectedly, someone else had to remember the pulse. Literally, you think about how fragile that is, and how strangely beautiful. A culture built on feeling time rather than measuring it. The sun shifts. Shadows stretch. And once again, that subtle, lazy rhythm sighs through the hills. Time to move again. You wander toward the outer edge of the village, following the scent of charcoal smoke and toasted barley. The sun is past its peak now, casting long shadows that slant across the dusty ground like stretched-out memories. It's late afternoon, and the rhythm of the day is picking up again. Literally, the drumbeat you hear now is busier. Not frantic, but certainly alert. Like someone softly knocking on your door because they know you're dozing and don't want to scare you, but really need you to wake up. You turn a corner and find a small gathering near the communal oven. There's a woman fanning the flames, another kneading dough, and a third slapping a large goatskin drum propped up beside her with one flour-dusted hand. It's not just music, it's a timer. This is Buna Kebele, the coffee prep rhythm. It cues the village to begin winding down the day, to finish field work, and return for the evening roast. You sit nearby, catching warm bread tossed from hand to hand. It lands in your palm like a prize. A boy leans over and whispers, "Next is the sifting drum." You give him the polite nod you've perfected by now, the one that means, "I have no idea what that is, but I'm excited to find out." Sure enough, a new rhythm soon joins the air. Lighter, skippier, with syncopated flourishes. A group of young girls begins shaking woven trays filled with lentils, stones clinking away from the edible bits. They laugh in rhythm. Someone sings a line about a stubborn bean that refused to cook. Historians still argue whether these work rhythms were coordinated by the Zemena or simply emerged from repetition and shared necessity. Some suggest the drumkeeper only signaled the main beats of the day: sunrise, midday, dusk, and the rest evolved organically. Others think the Zemena adjusted rhythms for different seasons, tasks, or even personalities. Berhanu likes a slow bake, one joke goes, so we use the widow's waltz beat. Of course, nothing was written down. These were communal beats, passed down by memory, gesture, and plenty of teasing. You notice that every action, from pounding spices to fetching firewood, seems to occur on cue. No one's rushing. No one's confused. It's not magic. It's timing. Generations of collective timing. You help carry a bucket of chickpeas and are rewarded with a nod of approval. Not bad for a time-traveling amateur. And then, right on beat, someone brings out the injera and pours more coffee. The smoke curls upward like an exhale. The sun leans lower on the horizon. The drum taps again, 3 steady beats. It's the cue to start heading home. You rise reluctantly. This rhythm is one you already understand. You stroll downhill with the others, belly full of lentils, mind full of rhythms. The village paths are quieter now, not silent, just softer. Tools clink as they're packed away. Goats shuffle into pens. Even the dogs seem to walk with less urgency. And then you hear it, A new drumbeat, light, measured, with a bit of swing to it, like someone humming while walking with a full basket. It's time for the children's hour. You round a bend and see a group of young kids gathered beneath a crooked acacia tree, drumming on overturned baskets and hollow logs. Their teacher, barefoot, graceful, and radiating calm, claps along with them, calling out numbers in Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language still used in some Ethiopian churches. 1, 2, 3, tap, tap. 4, 5, 6. Pause. Tap. Welcome to drum school. Here, the children don't learn by reciting multiplication tables. They drum them. Each rhythm links to a number pattern, a season, a daily task. One sequence means time to fetch water. Another means wait until sunset. It's not rote memorization. It's full-body learning. You sit in the back, trying to copy the beat on your knee. A small girl turns around, squints at you, and silently counts your offbeat claps. Brutal. She's right, of course. The teacher smiles and hands you a child-sized drum. You try again, this time following the collective rhythm rather than your own uncertain tempo. And somehow, it works. For a few fleeting moments, you blend in. Historians still argue whether these educational drum sessions were formalized systems or simply games layered with structure. Some believe there were drum teachers assigned in each village, while others say mothers and grandmothers improvised lessons during chores. Either way, the results were real. Children who could track time, perform rituals, and coordinate labor without ever reading a clock. You hear a story about a boy from a neighboring village who drummed so well. He was invited to join the monastery by age 9. He could keep time in his sleep, someone says. You believe it. One mother jokes, if only he'd learned to keep his tunic clean, too. The children's drumming grows more playful. Some turn it into a game, drum the pattern correctly, or do a silly dance. You get caught out. Your silly dance will not be remembered fondly by history. And yet, laughter erupts all around. As the sun edges lower, the teacher raises her hand. The kids go silent. Then, one last soft beat. That's the signal. School is over. The kids scatter, drumming on sticks and legs and each other. The air holds the echo of their joy. You sit a moment longer, looking at the worn drum in your lap. You didn't just learn a rhythm. You felt time pass. Not in hours, in laughter, in play, in pattern. And somewhere behind you, the village drums again. Another hour has passed. You take the long way back to the village center, guided by instinct and echo. The rhythm now is different again, more formal, maybe even a little smug. Each beat is precise, a touch slower than the children's hour, but with an undeniable air of importance. It's the rhythm of status, power, etiquette. You follow it and soon spot them. The nobles, beneath a wooden awning trimmed with hand-woven cloth, sit half a dozen local elites, landholders, advisors, even a scribe with a smudged ink pot tucked into his robe. Their sandals are cleaner than yours. Their hair is braided. Their posture suggests they've never carried firewood in their lives. And behind them, a drummer in full ceremonial regalia, playing an hour beat, known only to them. This is the courtly time. You've stumbled into a miniature royal audience. The drummer's strokes are crisp. His drum is decorated with silver studs and something that might be leopard fur. You hope it's just fancy goat. Every beat he plays aligns with the seated noble's motions. Each sip of tej, each nod, each pointed whisper to a servant. One of them notices you standing awkwardly near the post. "Come closer," he says, without looking up. You obey. Because, honestly, what else are you going to do? Time doesn't rush here. It summons. The nobles are discussing market reports, weather patterns, maybe even marriage arrangements. It's hard to tell. The dialect is thick, and they speak in fragments, as if the drum is helping them pace their thoughts. Now here's a twist historians love. There's still debate over whether this elite rhythm was ever shared with commoners. Some say these courtly beats were kept intentionally obscure. Coded sequences passed from noble to control access to knowledge and ceremonial timing. Others believe the drum patterns were universal, and what set the nobles apart was merely how they reacted to them. As in, you and I hear the same drumbeat, but they know whether it means pour wine or bring documents. Either way, this beat is not for baking bread or herding goats. It's for controlling the flow of attention. The nobles move in step with the rhythm, like dancers who refuse to admit they're dancing. And then, just as the discussion reaches a lull, a boy in servant's garb steps forward and strikes a single bell. Once, cleanly. The drummer nods and shifts to a new pattern. Shorter beats now. The meeting is over. Not dismissed by words, but by sound. The nobles stand as one, offering you a polite glance, the kind given to dogs that don't bark too loudly. You're not offended. You're impressed. The ceremony was silent, but you felt every cue. As they depart, you notice the drummer wrap his instrument in red cloth, then bow, not to the nobles, but to the drum itself. You've seen this before. Reverence for the object, the idea, the pulse that holds everything together. You walk away slowly, hearing echoes of that elite rhythm still bouncing around in your mind. Somewhere in the hills, a common drum sounds the next hour. It's comforting, but now you know. Not all beats are created equal. As the nobles retreat, and their ceremonial drummer vanishes behind a carved wooden door, you catch a shift in the wind, and with it, a different beat entirely. At first, it's hard to place, sparse, hesitant, like someone trying to drum while listening for something else. And then it hits you. It's not the rhythm that's different. It's the world around it. You follow the beat down a narrow path leading toward the brushland outside the village, past thorny bushes and flat stones, until the trees give way to open land where goats graze with the confidence of creatures who've earned their place. But it's not the goats you're watching. It's the drummer crouched beside them. He's not wearing the ceremonial robes of the monastery or the tidy cotton of the town center. His cloak is patched. His sandals are more whole than soul. Yet he holds his drum with purpose, tapping out a sequence you haven't heard all day. And that's when it happens. A low, warning growl rolls across the rocks. You freeze. The drummer doesn't. He changes the rhythm instantly. Sharp, staccato beats with irregular pauses. You hear a rustle, then a thud, and finally, silence. The growl fades. You blink. The goats, who had all stopped mid-chew, resume like nothing happened. The drummer nods toward a shadowy patch of acacia trees. "Lion," he says casually. "Turns out you've stumbled into one of the oldest, weirdest features of the Ethiopian time drum tradition. Beats not just for humans, but for wildlife. There were drums to alert shepherds to threats, drums to scare off hyenas, even rhythms that signaled when it was safe to let animals drink from a specific river bend. You think of it as sonic fencing, beats instead of walls. Historians still argue whether these animal-aware rhythms were coded intentionally or simply evolved from repeated use. Some claim elders could train livestock to associate safety with specific sounds. Others suggest the predators learned to stay away from certain vibrations, less out of fear, more out of irritation. Lions hate syncopation, one farmer allegedly quipped in a 17th century oral tale, probably apocryphal. Still funny, but it's not just animals you have to worry about. The drummer tells you that during monsoon season, the rhythm changes too. Heavy rains make it harder for sound to carry, so drum beats get louder, slower, designed to punch through the wet air and still be heard. He shows you one such rhythm, the rain watch. Each beat lands like a boot in mud. You feel it in your knees. The goats do too. They look unimpressed. This kind of beat isn't written down anywhere. It's learned by weather. How the air moves, how sound bounces when the ground is soaked, how the echo shifts when thunder growls nearby. It's practical acoustics passed down through goat herders who can't read but can hear the sky thinking. And you're soaking it in, not the rain, it's still dry, but the knowledge, the feel, the pulse of a world where even lions respect the clock. You head back toward the village, half expecting another lion to appear just for dramatic timing. But the path is clear, and instead, you're greeted by something even stranger. Silence. Not total silence. The kind that makes you wonder if you've gone deaf. But a stillness in the air that makes the hairs on your arms rise. No drumbeat, no bird song, just the sound of your own feet and the breeze shifting through eucalyptus branches like a whispered warning. You pass a small cluster of homes with no smoke curling from their chimneys. A dog lifts its head, yawns, and lays it back down. No one moves with urgency. No one is working. You've entered a drum pause, a break in the rhythm, an intermission. Turns out, not every hour was marked with relentless pulse. There were times, especially in the transitional seasons, when drumbeats would halt briefly between scheduled cues, partly to rest the ears, partly to signal something rare, a moment without structure. You find an older man sitting under a fig tree, legs stretched out, like he invented the concept. He's whittling something that may one day become a spoon. You ask him why there's no beat. He shrugs. Even drums need to breathe. That's when it hits you. You're the one panicking, not them. You've gotten so used to the beats marking your time here, you feel adrift without them, like a sleepwalker waking up without knowing what day it is. The man smiles. It's a test. If you forget what hour it is, you weren't paying attention. Some historians think these pauses were deliberate cognitive tools, a communal way to make sure people stayed attuned to their surroundings, not just the beat. Others argue they were practical breaks for the Zemena, who couldn't be expected to drum for 12 hours straight without needing a bathroom or a snack. Either way, these silent intervals became liminal spaces, unofficial signals to reflect, reset, or whisper secrets. A boy might confess a crush during the pause. A woman might dream aloud about a new weaving pattern. Someone might eat a mango in complete peace, and if you listen hard enough, even silence has rhythm. You lean back against the fig tree. The man beside you is still whittling, occasionally humming a tuneless melody that somehow matches your heartbeat. The sun has dipped just enough to soften its glare, and the air has cooled to a silkier temperature. You could fall asleep right here. And maybe you do, for a moment. Then, a beat, just one. A deep, satisfying thum that rolls through the earth like a footstep from the gods. The Zemena is back. The man beside you stands up, stretches, and says, "Break's over." You both head toward the new rhythm, no longer confused, just curious, because now you know how Midas fits into the pattern. The rhythm calling you now is unmistakable. It's not cautious, like the lion beat. It's not leisurely, like the basket weaving hour. This is something else, festive, full-bodied, proud. You follow the sound uphill toward the plaza, where people are gathering like iron shavings around a magnet. Bright cloth, flower garlands, roasted barley in the air. Something's happening. It's the festival drum. And no, it's not a special occasion. Not by modern standards. It's just the 8th day of the lunar cycle. But that's more than enough. In 14th century Ethiopia, time wasn't just about hours. It was about cycles, rhythms that spanned days, moons, and harvests. This one? It's the small feast of Saint Tekla, and the entire village is tuned in. The drummer, no longer the daily Zemena, but a festival master, wears a layered robe with gold trim and holds 2 polished sticks carved with zigzag patterns. His drum is massive, so big it needs a wooden frame and 2 boys to carry it. He plays not for practicality, but for presence. Every beat rolls out like a laugh that can't help but echo. The rhythm is flamboyant, with flourishes you haven't heard all day. People clap along, not because they have to, but because it's contagious. You're handed a honey cake wrapped in fig leaves. Someone paints a small cross on your forehead with ash and says, "Welcome to the rhythm of saints." It's not clear whether that's a formal greeting or just something poetic they say. Either way, you're in. The plaza becomes a stage. Children dance. Elders chant. Monks clap slowly in time with the deep pulses of the festival drum, their palms stained red with ochre. And above it all, the rhythm guides every gesture. Historians still argue whether these festival rhythms were encoded into separate calendars or simply memorized through oral tradition. Some believe a secondary system of drumbeats existed just for holy days, each saint or seasonal event given its own unique time sequence, played once every month, then forgotten until the next cycle. Others argue that the beats weren't codified at all, just improvised by the drummer based on tone, audience, and mood. As one 20th century Ethiopian elder once said, "You don't read a drum, you remember it." Tonight, you watch a boy no older than 10 stand beside the drummaster. He closes his eyes, listens for 2 minutes, then picks up a smaller drum and joins in without missing a stroke. His hands know what to do. His shoulders sway just enough, The drummer raises his eyebrow, nods. The boy's face lights up. It's not just music. It's inheritance. As night approaches, the festival rhythm grows louder, then quieter, then louder again. You're not sure what time it is. You stopped caring 3 hours ago. All you know is this hour matters. This rhythm has purpose. You sit at the edge of the plaza, sipping spiced tej and tapping your foot with the crowd. The stars are out. The night is warm. And somewhere, behind every song and cheer, that deep festival drum keeps time, not just for now, but for memory. The festival lingers like steam after a pot's been lifted. Music tapers off. The plaza empties in waves. You stretch your legs, cheeks warm from teiji and laughter, and let your feet guide you. This time toward the monastery again. But instead of going inside, you follow a flickering oil lamp around back, where a group of monks sits hunched over something rare. A book. This isn't your average monastery psalter. It's a time log, or something close. Handmade parchment bound in soft leather, its corners dog-eared and ink-stained. One monk uses a quill to trace neat ge'ez characters along the edge of a margin, murmuring under his breath to match each stroke to the memory of a rhythm. You kneel beside him and peer closer. There, between a prayer to Saint Lalibela and a list of ceremonial wines, is a series of dots and curves, strangely melodic. They aren't words. They're notations for a drum cycle. Welcome to one of Ethiopia's strangest mysteries, drum writing. Historians still argue whether these scribbles are actual musical notation, mnemonic codes, or just a monk's doodles that got taken way too seriously by future scholars. Some suggest each line corresponds to a specific rhythm played on feast days. Others believe they were merely visual prompts for sermons or chants, not meant to be interpreted by drum at all. The monk beside you seems amused. "This one," he says, tapping the page. "It's the rhythm of Saint Michael's procession. Or maybe bread rising. Hard to tell. Depends on the monk." Another points to a different parchment. A narrow, rolled-up scroll tucked into a carved ivory tube. It's older, browner, flakier, unfurls like a secret. Across the parchment, rows of concentric circles, each with slashes, dots, and tiny drumstick icons. You're told this was once used to train novice timekeepers, a visual memory aid when ears were still untrained. And yet, despite all this recorded knowledge, there's something almost informal about it. You get the sense that the writing isn't the thing that matters. The rhythm is. The beat lives outside the page. The parchment is a backup singer, supporting but never leading. One monk hands you a blank sheet. Try it. He grins. You dip the quill into ink, hesitate, then draw 3 uneven dots and a looping line. It looks like a worm giving a TED talk. He nods solemnly, as if it's not awful. You appreciate the lie. Nearby, a young initiate taps your design on a practice drum. It sounds nothing like the hour beats you've learned, more like someone tripping over a laundry basket. But everyone claps anyway. Encouragement, it seems, is part of the rhythm, too. Then someone lights a fresh oil lamp, its flame casting the script's curves into dancing shadows on the monastery wall. A monk begins humming, low and steady, and the others join in, forming a soft chorus around the parchment silence. The book is closed, the quill wiped clean, and with that, the rhythm moves on. You step outside into the cooler air, wondering how many secrets were never written at all, and how many still linger in the beat. You don't make it far before the smell of firewood and roasted grain pulls you sideways toward the far end of the village, where the homes begin to blur into small farms. Here, under a canopy of woven reeds, a different kind of rhythm pulses. It's lighter, softer, but persistent, not ceremonial, not instructional, domestic. You step into a courtyard where 3 women are seated around a circular hearth. One tends to a bubbling clay pot. Another rocks a cradle with 1 foot. The third, she's keeping time with a drum no larger than a dinner plate, striking it with the flat of her palm in a repeating pattern that makes you want to exhale slowly. This is the household rhythm, the beat of bread and babies. It's the kind of rhythm you don't notice until it stops. Not flashy, not loud, but undeniably present. A heartbeat for the home. The woman with the cradle glances up and smiles. This is the baby's nap drum, she says. You chuckle. She doesn't. She's dead serious. She taps out a new rhythm, slower, almost like a lullaby. The baby stirs, then sighs, then goes completely still. You're watching sound work magic. Historians still argue whether women had designated drum hours, or whether they wove their rhythms into daily life purely by instinct. Some say there was an unwritten canon of female rhythms passed from mother to daughter, hidden from male drummers entirely. Others believe these beats were ad hoc, as improvised as dinner recipes, and just as sacred. Whatever the case, these women know exactly what they're doing. The woman tending the pot adds a pinch of spice, nods to the cradle keeper, and shifts the rhythm again. This time, it's syncopated, a little playful, a cue for supper prep. You're handed a small gourd of shiro, thick and fragrant. and realize you've eaten more on this time travel than on your last vacation. A girl of about 12 enters with a stack of flatbread. She sets it down, picks up the drum, and plays her version of the rhythm. The older women smile, but don't correct her. Time here is flexible, as long as it flows. In one corner, an elderly woman braids reeds for a new mat. Her hands move in perfect time with the drum, even though she doesn't look up once. You suspect she could do this in her sleep, and maybe that's the point. In this world, rhythm is so embedded, so lived, that even rest is performed to a beat. You stay for a while, just sitting, watching, breathing with the rhythm. You don't want to speak. Words would only get in the way. You begin to understand what domestic time really means. Not chores, not schedules, but harmony. Timing that wraps the everyday in gentleness. As the stars begin to prick the sky, the women stop drumming. One by one, they smile, nod, and retreat indoors. The rhythm dissolving like steam. You walk back to the center of town, feeling lighter, softer, but deeply aware of time. The beat is gone, but you can still feel it. You barely get 3 steps before your ears catch something utterly unexpected. A foreign beat. It's subtle at first. A little faster, a little sharper, and filled with patterns that don't quite match the village's familiar pulses. Your instincts tighten slightly until you spot the source. A caravan is arriving. Torches bob down the path like fireflies marching in sync. Traders from the lowlands, their mules laden with folded cloth, salt blocks, and glazed pottery. The lead merchant steps forward, striking a handheld drum, smaller, flatter, and rimmed with cowrie shells that rattle on impact. You've entered the zone of the merchant rhythm. These are transitory beats, drum patterns that don't belong to any one village, but carry a flavor of distant lands. One rhythm might signal the arrival of salt traders from afar. Another might be recognized as the camel beat from Nubian caravan routes. You don't just hear the beat. You taste the dust it traveled through. The Zemena meets the group with a welcoming call. 2 beats, a pause, and a deep thump. A common entry rhythm. The traders reply with their own flourish, then bow slightly. It's musical diplomacy. Historians still argue whether trade rhythms were designed intentionally for border-crossing purposes or just evolved naturally through repeated exchanges. Some posit that entire drum dialects emerged among trading communities, allowing them to negotiate, greet, or even signal danger without a single spoken word. You follow the caravan into the plaza, where the traders lay out their goods. Textiles shimmer under lantern light. Salt chunks sparkle like quartz. One woman sets out carved combs and then taps a rhythm on the side of her crate, not for show, but to draw in customers. People gather instinctively. The beat says, "Here, look here." A boy from the village brings out his own drum and tries to mimic the merchant's style. The trader chuckles and nods in approval. Then he shifts tempo, plays a flourish. The boy fumbles, but keeps going. It becomes a game, a trade of sounds before goods. You sip something tart from a clay cup, the name of which you didn't catch, and watch the interaction unfold like a ballet in percussion. Even haggling has a rhythm. A woman offers a string of blue beads. The trader taps once, sharply. She replies with a softer beat. He adds a fill. She shrugs. He caves. Sale confirmed. By rhythm. By now, you've stopped trying to understand every beat. You're just letting them wash over you like waves, each one a dialect of purpose, a logic of motion. And then it happens. The merchant drummer changes pace again, this time syncing with the village's main beat. The Zemena responds in kind. A rhythm merger. Two worlds in agreement. You realize time here isn't static. It's flexible. Rhythms adapt to one another, like accents blending at a party. As the night deepens, the traders settle in for rest, their drums stowed like bedrolls. The village breathes. One pulse, one time. By now, your ears are fluent in rhythm. You hear time without thinking about it. But tonight, you encounter a strange absence, not of sound, but of sunlight. The moon is gone. Clouds cover the sky. And for the first time since you arrived in this world of drums, there's no visual cue to back up what you're hearing. This is the hour of trust. You follow the path beyond the last fire-lit homes to a small outpost, just a hut and a bench beneath a weathered fig tree. There, a young man sits alone, tapping a small hand drum with 2 fingers and his palm, eyes closed. You sit beside him. He doesn't open his eyes. Counting, he says simply. He's not being cryptic. He's marking evening hours using only rhythm, a skill that seems absurd until you realize he's dead accurate. He strikes 3 soft beats, a pause, then 2 more. That was the 8th hour after sunrise, he mutters. You check the position of the stars. He's right. This is what locals call blind time. Hours told without visual anchors, when the moon is absent and the hills offer no echo. Here, rhythm becomes a 6th sense. Historians still debate how accurate these internalized rhythms were. Some claim elite timekeepers trained for years, learning to feel hours like heartbeat intervals. Others argue it was looser, more of a cultural consensus than a mathematical precision. But everyone agrees. When you couldn't see time, you trusted the drum to do it for you. And that trust had boundaries. One time, the man explains, a storm rolled in unexpectedly, and the hour beat changed too early. The whole village ate dinner an hour ahead. No one slept well. Everything was off. He chuckles softly, like a man remembering an old family joke. Tonight, no one wants to repeat that mistake. He plays the hour slowly, carefully. Each beat lands with the weight of a full sentence. A couple of villagers appear in the dark, sitting quietly, breathing in the rhythm. It's not ceremonial, not social, just a collective syncing, like resetting watches. But with goatskin and muscle memory, you try to tap along. It's harder in the dark. Your timing slips without light. But then, slowly, your body adjusts. You don't look for the beat anymore. You listen inward. A woman joins with a gourd shaker, softly adding texture. Another hums. No words, just resonance. The kind of sound that fills space without demanding it. You wonder how many nights like this happened across centuries. No records, no names, just people keeping time with nothing but sound and faith. And then, a single long beat. It lingers. Everyone exhales. That was the cue. Time to rest. You wake to the sound of water. Just a trickle. Just enough to remind you you're still here. The village is asleep. The stars have shifted. And yet, the drum has returned. But this one isn't loud. It's not even being played with hands. You follow the sound and find yourself beside a small stream that runs along the outer edge of the farmland. There, tied to a tree and hovering just above the water's surface, is a floating drum. Yes, a literal floating drum, crafted from gourd and hide. It gently bobs on a string, nudged every so often by the current. Each time it tilts, it taps against a rock someone placed just so. The rhythm is uneven, quiet, almost apologetic. But it's there. This is the drum of intervals. It doesn't measure hours. It measures moments, intervals between watches, between duties, between sleep cycles. It's used to remind certain night workers, usually shepherds and guards, to change position, rotate watch, or wake the next person for their shift. You sit beside it, mesmerized. It's nature and human craft conspiring to create rhythm. A drum that keeps time without anyone touching it. Historians still argue whether these passive drums were widespread or local eccentricities. Some claim entire regions relied on similar water-tapping setups. Others say it was just a poetic innovation from Aksumite hill shepherds. Either way, the concept of outsourcing time to a stream? Brilliant. A man appears from the shadows, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He nods at you, then gently lifts the gourd, checks the water flow, adjusts the string tension, and lets it fall again. The beat shifts slightly, faster now. He disappears as quietly as he came. That slight tempo change? You later learn it means third watch, the hour when people either give up on sleep or finally surrender to it. You look around and realize no one is checking a device. No one is watching a clock tower. The world here is full of clocks, but none of them need batteries or brass gears. They need trust and tuning. Even the goats, you suspect, understand the schedule. You rest your hand on the tree beside the floating drum. The bark is cool. The stream hums gently. The stars blink in silence. The drum taps again, just once, and you feel your breath sink to the ripple. By morning, the clouds have cleared, but something is off. The air feels brittle. The birds are quieter, and the familiar hum of distant drums never comes. You rise, walk the path toward the center of the village, and confirm it. The drums are silent. No morning rhythm. No coffee prep beat. No echo from the monastery. The Zemena is there, seated outside his hut, his hands resting flat on his knees. His drum sits untouched beside him, its goatskin slackened with damp. He nods at you, calm, not alarmed. "It's the dry week," he says. At first, you think he's referring to the weather. But then, you look around. No one is drawing water. No smoke curls from stoves. The usual clatter of tools and feet has been replaced by whispers and soft movements. This is drum silence by design, a tradition reserved for the driest week of the year, when even the air feels thirsty. When sound itself seems like too much to ask from the land. During this week, the drums are left still, not because time doesn't pass, but because listening matters more than counting. Historians still argue whether this tradition came from spiritual necessity or agricultural logic. Some believe the stillness was symbolic, a way to honor the land, to let the earth sleep. Others suggest practical roots. Hot winds carried sound unpredictably, so the rhythms were paused to avoid confusion. Whatever the reason, it's humbling. You spend the morning without cue. Tasks are still performed, but by habit, not rhythm. A woman sweeps. A boy collects branches. The Zemena sharpens a knife in long, unmeasured strokes. It feels like drifting on a boat without sails. Peaceful, but strange. And yet, the longer it lasts, the more aware you become of the wind brushing through grass, of the rooster that crows a beat too soon, of your own body's rhythm filling the space where drums used to be. You begin to hear memory rhythms, phantom pulses your mind tries to overlay onto silence. The morning beat, the noon meal cue, the kids' teasing dance rhythm from 3 days ago, and still, no one plays. You ask a girl why. She shrugs, smiling. Sometimes we need to remember the rhythm on our own, and maybe that's the point. Without the drums, the people don't freeze. They adapt. They remember. They keep the time inside. By evening, the silence takes on shape. It's not emptiness. It's rest. The kind of pause that musicians write between staves. The kind that gives meaning to every beat that came before. And that, oddly enough, is the loudest lesson yet. The silence doesn't last forever. On the 8th morning, just after dawn, just as your breath starts to fog lightly in the air, it returns. A single beat, not bold, not triumphant, just one steady pulse, like a stone dropped in still water. Then another. You stop walking. So does everyone else. It's not alarm, it's reverence, because this drum beat means something rare. Remembrance. Today isn't just the end of the dry week. It's Yemisir Be'al, the feast of the ear, a quiet holiday where villagers reflect on those who've passed and the things that time has taken. The drum doesn't keep time today. It remembers it. The Zemena stands by his drum again, this time wrapped in a shawl of soft indigo. He plays slowly, not in a strict pattern, but in waves, sometimes pausing for what feels like minutes before striking again. Every beat sounds like it's pulling something from the ground. You watch a grandmother step into the plaza, holding a reed basket of herbs. She walks up to the rhythm, then kneels. She stays there for a full 5 minutes, eyes closed, breathing with the drum. Then she stands, bows once, and leaves. Others follow. No one speaks. No one claps. This isn't performance. It's oral memory in percussion. Historians still argue whether these remembrance rhythms were ever standardized. Some believe certain beats referenced specific ancestors or tragedies. Others think they were free-form, a kind of emotional improvisation passed down silently. Regardless, everyone seems to understand the meaning without explanation. You sit near the monastery steps and notice the scribes writing again. Not words, but dots. One taps his foot with each drum beat and copies its echo into the margin of a psalter. You don't know what it means, but you recognize the care in his face. Nearby, a child adds a new beat to a small drum. He does it gently, almost nervously, as if unsure he's allowed. The Zemena hears it, pauses, and adjusts his own rhythm to match. Just for a moment. It's not correction, it's acknowledgement. This hour isn't about control, it's about continuity. the living and the dead, the old and the young, the remembered and the remembering. You close your eyes and listen. You don't know who the drum is for. Maybe someone lost in a past harvest. Maybe a boy who didn't come back from the lowlands. Maybe no one specific. But it feels personal anyway. By nightfall, the rhythm fades again. The Zemena wraps his drum in cloth. The people return home in silence. But the echo stays with you. The next morning dawns cooler, brighter. Like the air finally exhaled, dew clings to the grass. The goats bleat with renewed energy, as if they too sensed a shift. And the beat that wakes you? It's lighter, more playful, familiar, but changed. You follow the rhythm through a trail of clapping, tapping, humming, past the hearth, past the fields, until you reach a wide clearing near the water. People are already gathering, not for a festival or feast, but for something more understated, yet just as powerful. Today is for telling the drums what to remember. You're watching oral history in rhythm. One by one, villagers step forward and strike a rhythm of their own. Brief, personal, unscripted. Some mimic the cadence of a birth. Others play the beat of a migration, a sickness overcome, a marriage nearly derailed by a rainstorm. Each beat is met with nods, smiles, sometimes quiet tears. You're invited to try. You hesitate, but eventually you approach a small drum set by the edge of the clearing. You raise your hand, feel your pulse, and tap a simple pattern. 2 short, 1 long. It means nothing. Or maybe it means you were here. You contributed. You counted. A child repeats your rhythm after you. Then again, a woman across the way matches it with a pot lid and a spoon. The beat travels. Nothing dramatic, just gentle replication. Enough to know it landed. Historians still debate whether this communal sharing was performance, ritual, or an early form of archiving. A collective, acoustic memory bank. Some argue these rhythms formed the basis of genealogical storytelling, passed from generation to generation, not through names, but through pulse. A family might not remember the exact year of an ancestor's birth, but they remember the beat they danced to. And when people move away, they carry their rhythms with them. Traders beat them into crates. Brides tap them into wedding songs. Even rebels, it said, composed their war signals using forgotten family pulses. One elder puts it best as she taps a soft, syncopated rhythm into her walking stick. The drum remembers when people forget. You sit for a long while, letting each rhythm roll over you like slow waves. It's not chaotic. It's not competitive. It's not even about being heard. It's about being felt. And by midday, The clearing quiets again. The last rhythm lingers in the air for a few heartbeats before it fades. But nothing is lost, because here in 14th century Ethiopia, the drums don't just keep time. They keep memory. The sun hangs low, casting amber streaks across the hills. And for the first time since your arrival, the village seems to glow from within. The rhythms today aren't formal, aren't ritualistic, and certainly aren't trying to keep anyone on schedule. They're soft, scattered, personal. You wander through the village as a gentle evening beat emerges, not from a single drum, but from many. A mother hums and taps the edge of her stool. A boy plays with 2 pebbles in sync. A shepherd idly knocks his staff against a fence post as he checks the gate one last time. It's not performance, it's habit, muscle memory, comfort. This is the final rhythm of the day, the one they don't teach, the one that doesn't need naming. The rhythm of sleep. The zemena, now changed into a simple cotton wrap, sits quietly with a drum in his lap, not playing, just resting his hands on it like it's a sleeping child. He nods at you, then strikes a soft, even pattern. You sit beside him. No words, just the soft thump, thump, thump that you now realize is not just marking the end of the day, but mirroring your heartbeat. Your body understands before your mind does. This is the rhythm that helps everyone slow down. Nearby, a group of elders sits in a circle, swaying gently, not speaking. Someone begins a quiet chant, low, ancient, and round, like the hills themselves. No one joins. They don't need to. The drum replies. Historians have argued whether sleep rhythms were ever formally maintained, or if they evolved as ambient lullabies passed through generations. One theory suggests they were aligned with moon cycles. Another, that they emerged from monastic evening prayer beats. Either way, they lingered, quietly, persistently. As twilight deepens into velvet night, the village lights dim. Lamps are snuffed. Crickets rise. One last beat. Then stillness. You lie back on a patch of soft earth just outside the Zemena's hut. The drum is now silent, but its rhythm still thuds in your chest. This was never about measuring time. It was about feeling it. You breathe in, slowly. The stars blink back. The goats settle. The world doesn't sleep because it's time. It sleeps because the rhythm says so. And the rhythm is always right. Now, let the rhythm drift. Let it unspool like thread unwinding from a spindle in some faraway hut. The drum is quiet now, but it isn't gone. It pulses gently, hidden behind the crickets and the wind. And if you close your eyes just a little more, you might still hear it. That slow thump, that steady beat, that feeling that somewhere, just beyond the edge of waking, time continues, not in minutes, but in memories, in habits, in stories told by candlelight and soot. Feel your breath match it, slow in and slow out. You've walked through a world that told time with no clocks, guided by rhythm instead of rules. A place where trust was built on a beat, and silence was never empty. It was waiting. Let your body keep that rhythm now. Let your thoughts loosen, like sandals being unbuckled at the end of a dusty road. There's no need to remember the exact hour, no need to track where the day went. The drums have done that for you. You are held. You are counted. You are part of the pattern. Now sink a little deeper. The villagers sleep. The traders sleep. Even the goats, dreaming of tomorrow's rhythm, sleep. You belong to this quiet now, this final hush, this perfect, peaceful pulse. Good night, time traveler.